Okay, over here in Excel, and I've got an exercise set up where we've got a table of information that contains some employee ID numbers, the names of the employees, and their postcodes and the state in which they're based. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is look up the employee ID number, returning the name, and we're going to do an exact match. So we'll just come up here to cell G3, and the way to start a Vlookup function is just type in equals Vlookup and open the brackets. And what Excel wants first is the lookup value. So you can hard code in a value if you like. I could actually type 1006 in there right now, but instead we're going to reference cell G2 and get our value from there, and then press comma. The next thing it wants to know is the table array, which is where all the information is. And that's going to be the entire table over here. So I'll just run the mouse over there with the left mouse button held down. And what you need to note about this is that you need to have the numbers that you're going to look up in this particular instance in the leftmost column. So in other words, if I selected all the cells like I just did there, starting at A2 and going down to D16, I couldn't look up the names or the postcodes. I have to look up the employee ID numbers because they're over on the left. So later on, when we go down and look up the names, I'll show you how to do that. All right, so we can just press comma. Okay, now it's asking us from which column we want to extract the information. So that's the col index number that it's asking for there. And we're looking to extract the names. So that's column 2 in this table of data. So column 1 is the employee ID numbers and column 2 is the names. So I'll type in 2 and comma. Okay, and then the last thing that it's asking for is whether we want an approximate match or an exact match. So for the first one that we're doing here, we want to just do an exact match. So we want to find exactly 1006. And in the next one, we'll do an approximate match. So when you want to do an exact match, you can type the word false in here, or you can actually just type a 0. So it's 1 for true and 0 for false, just to save a bit of time. So I'll just put in 0 and then close the brackets and press enter. Okay, so that's returned the value Gale. So if we look down our table, we can see that we've got 1006 there for the employee ID, and the corresponding name in column 2 is Gale. So that works perfectly well. Okay, so let's see what happens when we type in a different number. So let's do 1002. Okay, so now it's returned the name Petey. So if we look down our table, we can see we've got 1002 there in column 1 and Petey in column 2. Okay, now in this table, we don't have the number 1007. We've just got 1006 and then it skips to 1008. So let's have a look at what happens if we type in 1007. As you can see, it just gives us the NA error message. And if we click on that little icon there, you can see that the value is not available. Okay, so it can't find the value 1007 in column 1. So it's returned an error message rather than a name. So that's the exact match. Now let's see what happens when we do an approximate match. So I'll just type the formula in again. Okay, so I've just set that up in exactly the same way as the one that we just did. And this time we're going to do approximate match. So we can type in 1 or the word true and then close it off. Okay, so interestingly, you can see that it has actually returned a result of Gale. So if I click into the formula there, you can see that we're looking up that table. We're looking down column A, which is column 1 in this table of data, and we're looking for 1007 and we can't find it. But it has picked out the name Gale, which corresponds to 1006. So what happens when you do an approximate match is if it can't find it, it just goes back to find the next highest value before that. So 1006 is the next highest value that comes before 1007. Okay, so if I type in 1008, you can see that both of our functions there return Bob because it's found 1008 in column 1 and return the corresponding value. Now, if we do 1006, once again, it's found the value and it's returned Gale. And then once again, if we do 1007, you can see that the exact match returns the error message because it doesn't find it at all, but the approximate match goes back one step to 1006 and returns Gale. Okay, so one other thing with approximate matches that I need to show you is that it only works if the values that you're looking up are in ascending order. So you can see over here we start at 1001 and it goes all the way down to 1016, so it's all in order. So if I actually select that array and then we go to sort, and I'll just go custom sort and just make sure that we're selecting the employee ID column and we're sorting smallest to largest. So this time I'll sort it largest to smallest. And you can see that now we start at 1016 and we go all the way down to 1001, and the approximate match doesn't work this time. So even though it's still looking up the 1007 just as before, it's not working because the values that it's looking up are not in ascending order. So if we put that back to ascending order, the approximate match works again. Okay, so that's how you can use VLOOKUP, exact match, and approximate match when you're looking up numbers. So let's have a look now at what happens when we look up a name, which is text rather than a number. And we're going to return postcodes this time. So I'll just start off the VLOOKUP function right here. Okay, the value we're going to look up is there, comma. Okay, so this time, because we're looking up the names, the table array has to start here in column B. It can't start over here because otherwise the name wouldn't be in the leftmost column. So the name has to be in the leftmost column because that's what we're looking up, and that's how a VLOOKUP works. So that's the table array, comma. Okay, the column index number is going to be 2 again. If we were looking up the state, that would be column 3, and comma. All right, let's do exact match first. So we're going to do 0 and then close it off. Okay, so it's looked up the names. It's found Frank, which is down the bottom, and it's returned the value 4001. So let's have a look at another one. I'll just show you. If we look up Anna, you can see that it's returned 2507. Now, there's actually a couple of Annas in this list. So there's one up here, there's one here, and there's one there. And it's returned the value 2507, which corresponds to the first Anna in the list when you start from top and go down to the bottom. Okay, so that's another thing you've got to remember with VLOOKUP, is that if there's multiple matches, it will grab the first one and it will return the corresponding value of the first one, and it will ignore the other ones. All right, so now let's have a look at the approximate match. Okay, and this time we're doing approximate match, so it's a 1 or true, and close it off. Okay, now it's returned an error message, and even though there's actually 3 Annas in the list, it's given us an error message, and the reason for that is that the names are not sorted in ascending order. So if I come over here, I'll grab the whole table, and we'll go custom sort, and this time it's name, and we'll sort A to Z. Now, interestingly, you can see that the exact match has returned 2507, which corresponds to the first Anna in the list, but the approximate match has returned 4453, which is actually the last Anna in the list. Okay, so there's another thing you've got to remember with VLOOKUPs, is that if you're doing an approximate match and there's multiple results, you're going to get the last one, not the first one. Okay, so the last thing we can try is to actually look up a name that doesn't exist in the list. So let's try that. So let's do, say, Bruce. Okay, so the exact match can't find Bruce because Bruce is nowhere to be seen in the list of names. And the approximate match has returned 3585, which corresponds to Brock's name. So once again, it's gone from the top to the bottom because it's sorted in ascending order. It actually does work. And it's not found Bruce, but the next highest value name back in the list is Brock. So you've got BRU, and it hasn't found that anywhere. So it's gone back to BRO, and that's the value that it has matched in the names. Okay, so that's how you can use VLOOKUP to extract some values out of a table of data in Excel.